We usually having on this channel for educational purposes only. It's not intended as financial advice. Thought it'd be a good time to do a video here. Haven't done one on this channel in a while. If you do miss me, you can check me out on the Valkyrie channel where I post videos weekly. I am going to be flipping between light mode and dark mode, so I apologize in advance. But let's talk about some macro stuff first for a little bit, because we are increasingly correlated with legacy markets, which have been increasingly melting down, and we've been melting down with them. This is the correlation between BTC and SPX. The correlations between BTC and NASDAQ are even higher than this. You can see this is touching the heavens. This is the yearly correlation. You can look at all these correlations. They're all at all-time highs. 180-day above 50%, 90-day above 60%. That's an all-time high. 60-day above 60%, all-time high. 30-day above 80%, all-time high. Okay, so you can choose to ignore what's going on in legacy at your own peril, but I think it's a good idea to sort of understand a little bit what's going on. If you have no clue, if you want more information, this is a buffet. Choose to ignore it. Again, I could care less, but I'm talking more and more about it because we are slowly morphing into legacy, partially because of institutional money that's here, partially because of China being gone. Think about the people actually trading this nowadays. China certainly is on the bottom of that list, right? More and more miners are here. Just more and more everything is US based. It makes sense that we are correlating these days more and more and more, which means people who are trading this view it as risk on more and more and more. And if the environment is detrimental to being risk on, as it has been lately, then we go down more and more and more, right? And you can start to see like this and this and this and this are all together. So correlations, until this breaks, right, then we are connected at the hip. We are conjoined twins. I don't know what it's going to take for us to break this, but when we do, I think we will all be celebrating. Maybe we break it at 20, maybe we break it at 10, I don't know, maybe we break it at 65, but when we do, we'll all be celebrating, because right now it's pretty miserable to just be trading a derivative of the NASDAQ, essentially. This is from Ecoinometrics on Twitter. Give him a follow. Great charts and info. And this is part of the other problem, right? The Fed rate, which continues to be the lowest in history in the face of inflation. I'll get to that chart in a second. The question is, what are they going to do if a recession comes, which is likely coming? They can't slash rates below zero, theoretically. So, what are they going to do? Slosh this around, flip it to 3.5, and then by the time the recession hits, be late behind the curve again, drop rates again. Are we just going to have this song and dance over and over again? So this is the problem. The argument for this data is they have nowhere to go now, and the recession is just going to happen. Volatility is going to happen. Volatility is going to kill risk assets, and that's what the Fed wants to tame inflation. That's the running narrative currently. And then if we look at Fed cycles and Bitcoin performance, this chart's really stuck with me since it was posted a couple weeks ago. Obviously the price is a little bit old. It's 39K. It's not 39K anymore. But the point is, again, QE clearly has had an effect on all risk on assets, including BTC. QT as well. Now this is an N of 2. I get it, right? Every time I post any data point, people are like, oh, well, this has only happened once before. Doesn't mean it'll happen ever again. I get that, okay? But you can't ignore something that's happened twice exactly the same way. And then here's something that's coming again. QT's coming. We haven't even entered QT yet, okay? We are pre-QT. So it's important to know, as they say, the macro headwinds. I hate these like stupid legacy phrases, but it is what it is. So you have to think, are we going to be bullish through QT even though we've never been bullish through QT? That's just a question. That's an open question for you to consider and ponder, okay? You tell me. The other question is, how bad does legacy look right now? It looks pretty bad. Do I think it could go lower? Sure, right? Why not? If we look at numbers like this is basically the number of stocks that have made 52-week lows, right? This says, well, yeah, it's clearly in the negative, but it's not as bad as it could be. It's not COVID bad. It's not even tightening bad, right? QT bad. It's just kind of getting there. It's on its way, So again, you have to keep this in mind. If the TA is bearish, which over the past 6 weeks, obviously, it's been increasingly bearish once we failed to break 48. And then we have this environment for risk on assets that is just, people can't wait to get out of this stuff, right? People are afraid to hold on to any of this stuff. People have to close their positions in this stuff to pay for collateral in other stuff that they're leveraged up on, right? That's another part of this message. How can Tether go to 95 cents when the redemptions are clearly working? Well, if people are forced sellers of Tether, they have no choice, okay? If people are forced sellers of BTC to pay for collateral, they have no choice. What are they going to do to shore up positions? So it's important to keep that in mind. Again, I'm not mega turbo bearish. I'm just saying, look, we got all this stuff ahead of us here. It's important that people are aware. And oh, by the way, it doesn't look like inflation's getting any better. This is from Bianco Research. Follow him on Twitter too. He puts out a lot of great legacy stuff along with Charlie Biello. But what they're showing here is, look, gas prices not getting any better. CPI probably still going to continue to tick higher next month. The print was bad enough this month. So if CPI continues to increase, that likely signals to the Fed that they have to be even more aggressive than they already have been, which arguably, right, isn't even that aggressive. This is nothing. Look at this. Like we're breaking down on everything risk-wise, and we've barely turned a knob, you know. You could say, well, stocks are just pricing in the future, blah, 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 blah. But look at where we are. Look at where we have been. Look at where we need to be, right? We are so far from home, it's not even funny at this point. So this is a problem, right? This is a problem. You could say this is Ukraine, Putin, whatever, but it's a problem, and it will be dealt with. And the Fed has clearly said that they're going to try to deal with it. This is Fed funds rate minus CPI. So this is effective FFR, real FFR, whatever you want to call it. Again, it shows you how far away from home we really are, right? We are so far away that something's going to need to change here. And we can blame Biden, we can blame Trump, we can blame Obama, we can blame Bernanke, we can blame anybody we want to blame. But blaming people isn't going to help you when you're panicking because you were leveraged long when you shouldn't have been, right? Okay, so just keep that in mind. That as bottomy as this might look or may begin to look, we're still dealing with some stuff that we're connected at the hip to, right? So keep that in mind. Like the Dixie, the DXY, which looks like ETH on a good day, right? This looks like any other shitcoin chart, including ETH, that has a run in this parabolic banana, Manson banana, if you know who that is. Is he still even around? It's hard to say what's turning what here. Is risk on sentiment being so poor turning on stuff like this? Like the safety, is the Euro zone exploding, causing this to go up, right? Whatever, it doesn't really matter. But the point is, we are hopefully nearing an end of this, right? We're in the 7th week of a red Bitcoin candle, the first time ever in the history of Bitcoin's existence. And maybe, just maybe, Dixie starts to reverse here and we see some relief in the near term. But I certainly don't expect anything bullish out of BTC in the near term until this thing reverses. And it's got to be getting there, right? It's got to be. This thing can't go to infinity forever. This is a 20-year high, if not more at this point. Again, something to pay attention to. If things start to miraculously turn around, check out the DXY, right? Because since April, it's just been completely divergent from BTC. Not the best chart to represent this, admittedly. But again, just look at the numbers, people, right? We are the inverse of the DXY right now. So if the DXY can chill out a little bit, we may have a chance here. Interestingly enough, we are seeing a flight to BTC, maybe because alts are melting, maybe because they're melting more than BTC. Not unusual for a bear market to see BTC collapse less than stuff like Luna, which went to zero overnight, admittedly quicker than I think most people even imagined. Albeit death spiral was uttered by virtually everyone, including myself. To see it happen in real time is the craziest thing I've ever seen in crypto, easily. And you could say, well, okay, again, previous bear markets, what does dominance look like when we sort of reach a bottom? Maybe we get all the way back to 60% dominance, right? Maybe we don't. I don't know. But it's, again, another factor to consider, because I really like other stuff along with this, like MVRV, which is the measure of market cap versus on-chain activity. And when on-chain activity is greater than market cap for an extended period of time, that has been a bottom, right? That's what this is showing you down here in the Z-score. I do not expect a V-bottom, which was COVID, because, again, look at the macro conditions. Rates need to be much higher than they are. Inflation obviously needs to be controlled, and it's not. That's not even to say rising rates will control inflation, or QT will control inflation. But what else are they going to do, right? They can't go in the other direction. So I certainly expect a bottom to look like it did in 2018, kind of in 2015, where we had this sort of extended period where on-chain activity was greater than market cap. We're not there yet, right? We're getting there very quickly, but we're not there yet. And of course, the favorite 2-year MA multiplier, this is looking to bitcoin.com, great website. It's free, check it out. But if we're looking for overbought, oversold, then we're certainly well into the oversold DCA zone, right? But keep in mind, again, QT is just starting, hasn't started yet. Pre-QT, right? As people have pointed out in that thread that people seem to like on Twitter, where I posted those 3 charts, don't ignore the macro stuff, because the macro stuff is significant so long as we're correlated in a big way to legacy like we are. 200-week moving average, also down here at 21.8, which historically has been the bottom of all bear markets. Now, can we survive at 21.8 pre-QT? I don't know. That's maybe the question that's most important in all of this, because again, historically, we've had a lot more room to collapse into the 200 while macro stuff was getting figured out. But maybe some sort of white swan is Putin gets removed from office, Ukraine gets controlled, oil gets controlled, CPI gets controlled, rates don't raise as high. That's some fork in the road that's probably not reality, but that's part of the decision tree. What goes on in that sense? Then maybe we see the euro recover, Dixie reverts, and emerging markets do better, right? I don't know. This is a lot of stuff that needs to go right here, but I'm just trying to think of what will actually save us at the 200-week moving average. Because 21.8, sure, we're at 30 now, but we got a long road ahead of us. Long road ahead of us. I was looking at this. This is a pitchfork. I was looking at this today, just randomly pulled it up, and I didn't add this wing today. I just had this on there. It's pointless. It doesn't really mean anything, but it would be interesting if we were able to save ourselves somewhere in this and resume something towards the end of the year. Again, a lot's going to need to just completely 180 in order for that to happen. It's certainly more likely that we break down from this, attempt to bounce from the 200-week and figure it out from there. Maybe we consolidate to the 200-week for an extended period of time, 3 months, 6 months, a year, like we did in 2015, right? It's good that we're at least holding at 30. It's good that we saw some capitulation into key levels. What you never want to see is just slow death. Never want to see that. The most bullish thing you can have is slow creep, right? And the most bearish thing you can have is just slow, doesn't care about TA. Look at Zcash, right? Zcash is a classic example. Just endless down for forever, right? There's Luna and then there's Zcash. Okay, Luna went to 0 in 2 days. Zcash is going to go to 0 in like 25 years, but it'll get there eventually. From a TA perspective, though, I'd much rather have very quick movements into psychological supports, let's say. Here's the 200-week in that 2-year MA multiplier put together. Again, it's touting a potential zone here that could be the bottom. We could form the bottom, the power bottom, for a year, 3 months, 6 months. I don't know. I don't think it's a V bottom. I think this is going to take some time to wash out all the leverage and the nonsense and the fallout from Luna and all the VCs getting wrecked, right? That's going to take some time, along with macro stuff, which hasn't really even started yet. And we can also look at the rainbow chart, which, sure, it's a meme. I don't care, right? Again, like I'm just looking at data here, people, okay? And look at the bottoms, look at halving. I could say, well, we got a long ways to halving. Maybe this thing just like did in 2015, cruises in the blue zone. I don't know, right? That's basically the 200-week, a little bit lower, 18, 19, 20. But again, you got nothing but time on your side, okay, to make a decision. Don't make any quick decisions, not investment advice. But we just started breaking down from Bollinger Bands. You don't form a bottom or a top after breaking down from a contracting volatility environment. So again, it's unlikely that we know any answers immediately, very quickly here in the near term. What would you be looking for? Anything above the 20-week would be massive. That's currently at like 40, 41. Next week not being red. Let's just start there, right? Let's start with week 8 not being red, and something else to look for always is candle patterns like this in COVID, where we had a tweezer bottom, spinning top, even a dragonfly, right? Anything to give us a sign that things will be okay next week. We're starting to get there. Even on the lower time frames, like the hourly and the 4-hour, we have this diagonal inverted head and shoulders. It's even on ETH. We have daily dragonfly type candlesticks into inverted hammer candlesticks. Like we're trying, we're trying not to go to zero here for the 8th week in a row. So I certainly could imagine some sort of relief bounce, as the Dixie starts to break down. Here it is on the daily. We pierced the S1 yearly pivot, mathematical based on previous year's highs and lows. S2 is somewhere around 6 to 7K. I'm not even going to put that bad voodoo on the video. It's down there. Just believe me, okay? Pull it up on TradingView. But, we don't want to break this if we can help it, because the hit rate of yearly pivots is extremely high. So I really don't want to go to 7K if we break down. Obviously, that would be way below the 200-week moving average. But I think our upside is limited to 38. We're starting to form a TKC clamp, right? Here's this TKC clamp here, and I point these out every once in a while as they happen. We had it here, we had it here, we had it here. Sometimes they meet the Kijun, sometimes they wait until the TK cross. But again, this takes time. This takes tons of time. This took a month. This took at least a half a month, right? This is going to take weeks. And into Q3, if we want to talk about seasonality, which people also seem to hate for some reason, Q3 seasonality is not on our side either. So maybe this thing just does a whole bunch of nonsense until Q4, right? Because Q2 has basically been nothing but misery. So maybe we continue to create some sort of distribution down here where the weak hands are distributing into the smart hands accumulating. I don't know, right? But it's early. It's so early to try to figure out where this is going to go. Maybe this Adam and Eve's, maybe this inverted head and shoulders over the next month. Maybe this creates some sort of downward triangle that looks ugly but breaks up anyway, right? Tons and tons of options here. Still very early. So keep that in mind. At the very least, right, this is the 1050. And again, this is a buffet. If you don't like MAs, fine. I don't care, right? It doesn't matter to me. But very similar to May, June, July, August, very clearly below that 1050 for an extended period of time. And if we get across a breach above the 50, then that's clearly a shift in what's been going on recently, right? So these are all just small things to look for in the next month, let's say. The 200-day moving average is going to move down pretty aggressively. That's at around 41, 42 as well. Maybe we meet it at 38. Lots of big open questions, as is this, which are the longs on Bitfinex right now for BTC USD. Maybe there's some Giga Chad, Giga Brain whale who knows what's going on here, and I'm just out of it, completely on the wrong side of the equation, counter trading everybody. But to see to see longs go to all-time high with price where it's at is slightly concerning. In 2018, coming out of that bottom, we had shorts at all-time high. I would much rather see this flipped, seeing shorts at all-time high. Maybe this is a hedge for some short, right? I don't know. I don't know what this is. No, I don't think anybody does. But more and more people are taking notice. And the problem with this is, if you're unaware, right, if price goes lower, then these longs have to unwind or start to unwind, either with a margin call, which is probably, their margin call is probably like sub 5K. We're not talking like they're at risk or anything. But this is just a lot of energy that's pent up in the market. OI, think of it however you want. And it's concerning, right? Either this person's buying the dip aggressively and is correct, and it's going to limit our upside, or they're wrong and it's going to extend our downside because they're going to have to unwind this eventually. That's what this comes down to. So if you know what that is, let me know in the comments. I'll talk about ETH real quick. ETH is just like BTC, which is just like Legacy, so it's all connected together. ETH hitting that 1800 level, its yearly pivot's slightly lower, between 12 and 13 down there. Looks just as bad as BTC. Looks just as fact-finding E, right? It has to find what it wants to be when it grows up in the next 6 months. Doesn't want to continue to break down. Do we want to bull div this out with a lower low? Do we want to Adam and Eve this with an equal low? Don't think this is going to be a V bottom. The same stuff. But 18 is a good level based on the previous lows, previous highs of 2021. Trend-wise, I wouldn't expect a miracle, right? Just like BTC. What does continue to look pretty good is BTC, in that, unlike previous times that it was in this zone, 2017, 2018, you could argue all sorts of stuff for this. Inverted Adam and Eve, inverted cup and handle, M double top, the list goes on. None of this is ever bullish. None of this is ever going to flip bullish miraculously. But this stuff here, in a vacuum, does break up to the 0.1 plus, right? Just like the stuff down here arguably wasn't a super clean inverted head and shoulders, but it was kind of this scoopy whoopy U bottom type thing, So chart pattern wise, as long as this thing continues to hold lows, eventually towards the end of the year, I think it does decently well. I think the merge is enough of a narrative to push this thing. The question is, again, macro. What does this look like relative to QT? Does anybody care? Does anybody have any money left? Is retail completely gone from Luna? Is this thing going to be regulated to death, right? Those are all things that we're going to have to find out in the next couple months because I'm watching the same movie you're watching. That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.